Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, the man who's currently suffering through the ancient gods in his countdown to the Dark Ages, good brother Sig.
We are almost finished, and I'm hoping to knock this out this weekend.
I think you.
It has been a wild ride.
Yeah, I remember when they came out, both episodes of the Ancient Gods being a bit divisive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It is good, just like Eternal is. Eternal is very, very good. It is just brutally hard, sometimes even unforgiving.
And you're on Hurt Me Plenty, aren't you?
Yep, I'm just on Hurt Me Plenty. That can be more than a little unforgiving sometimes, especially in the Slayer Gates. Oh, God.
I mean, you kind of get what you pay for with the Slayer Gates. Also, hello there, 12 Herbs. Welcome to the monastery, and I appreciate the follow. Hope you enjoy the shenanigans that happen around here. So,
good.
Last week we did a bit of a overview of elements within FangKnight. Oh, and I see that 12 is Lily in the server. Thank you for joining.
Oh,
and
right,
thank
right.
you for supporting the crusade. But last week we did our introductory thing on FangKnight, and I did disclose the fact, and I will disclose again, I have a working relationship with Lost Lorn Games. At this time, no money has exchanged hands. I'm not being paid for this kind of thing. This isn't a paid ad. Just we've had some talks, and of course, we're going through a open playtest. So that's something to keep in mind. But the big things to take away is that even though the elevator pitch is vampire knights guarding hellholes, I feel like that does a bit of a disservice to what's being done here. And yeah, there's definitely some parallels that we did see with Vampire, but they're parallels in very surface forms.
Especially once you get into reading about the bloodlines and the clans and whatnot, and what their roles in this society is.
Mm-hmm. And for this week, we're going to be going into character creation, specifically the creation of a bloodless, aka a vampire. And it should be noted that there are going to be some familiar elements, and you will get your first look at the character sheet that Sig and I have already seen. But as we go through it, you'll see that this isn't that even if it's using D20 as its core mechanic, this isn't what some people might think when they hear D20 because of 20-sided brain rot. But obviously we open up with playing a role where it makes clear that you're playing a separate character, not a alter ego or you with a different coat of paint.
So this is an Ultima.
Yeah, we do
or
not have
current age D&D.
We do not have even old-fashioned D&D. I mean, I know the Grogs like to pretend that there isn't precedent for some of their habits, but there is.
I can't argue with you there.
But then we get into the character sheet proper, and I do like that we have a breakdown of the sheet. I have something like this in my work, but it's towards the back. But what you see here is the info box. So you have your name, the firehold you come from, your malice, we'll get to that, your bloodline and brood, your coven and calling, and then your origin and background, as well as your knight, as well as your rank for both knight and lord, which are kind of two different tiers. You do see what was mentioned before with the whole diamonds thing. Virtues and vials, which is the equivalent of the virtue and vice that was in World of Darkness. Then the skills setup, and I will note that I will always appreciate when a game with a large skill list has them categorized, instead of just having a bunch of skills in one big-ass list. Looking at you, Palladium, and Shadowrun, and
that is true.
And L5R to an extent. And 3rd edition D&D. And Pathfinder.
Yeah.
And Pathfinder 2nd. And Starfinder. I think I've made my point.
I was about to say, yeah, the list could go on forever.
Yeah.
But let's make us some vampires.
So, we have 5 different skill groups. Mayhem, Physical, Mental, Social, and Mystic. We also have the Arcanics, with their Dwemer, Requisite, and Score. We'll get into those when we get into how Arcanics work. Talents, which I guess are akin to feats, or more accurately, knacks. Blazons, which are the 3 defenses. We will get to those. The stuff for treasure. Then you have hit points, as well as a thing for hunger and depravity. You also have the setup with weapons. And something that I kind of hinted at before. The way damage works is more on rolling hits with dice, much like in World of Darkness, rather than rolling dice total.
Right.
You also have the whole thing with armor and shield, a arms kit, as well as blight scars. Some of these things we will get into as we go on. And we do have a bit of a brief description of each. So with rank, you have 7 levels of FangKnight and then 7 levels of FangLord. With virtues and vials, these are your passions and drives. You circle 3 virtues and 3 vials, and the remaining pair as your crux pair, which is your core conflict, where you have potent feelings about 2 opposite ideals. I.e., This is why you have it set up in pairs like that.
Mhm.
You're picking 3 virtues, 3 vials, and then you're picking a virtue vial pair. But then you have blazons, which are which are, as I mentioned, your defenses, which range from 1 to 12. The blight scars denote how inhuman you've become. And things like treasure and talents are pretty self-explanatory. I already went into that. Then we get into creating your character at this stage known as a Fang, because even though you're a vampire, you're in the grand scheme of vampirism, you're still a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
But first thing that you pick is your bloodline. And the options we have are Baspazook, which are zombie masters, Khazadar, renegades begat of knaves, Marxi, arrogant puppet masters, Perfugos, religious rite that worships death, Sturmir, fiery, untamed, impatient, and reckless, Valdin, truth-telling jesters of wit and wisdom, and Zeluria, charming and devious blood hedonists. There are some that I can see analogous to some elements of clans in Masquerade, but it's not a one-to-one. Like the Marquisi, I could see them being somewhat analogous to Clan Ventru from Vampire the Masquerade. Because the running gag with them is that they are control freaks, are very good at control, and very good at the politics thing. Clan Ventru runs the world so you don't have to.
Makes me wonder which one of these would be the equivalent of a Tremere.
Let's see. It's been a while, but I believe Tremere were the ones who were fucking around with Diableri.
Blood magic.
Yeah. Maybe Perfugos, but I think with the way this setting works, I think if you're messing around with the equivalent of that, of draining a vampire dry like that, you're outside the bloodlines and probably gonna get a very angry visit from the Amaranthi.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Now at second rank, you would pick your background. We'll get into that later. Step 2 is picking your coven, which is your mission within the order, the duties of your firehold, and whatever uncanny training you've taken. This is equivalent to like the caste in Exalted or the roles in some other games. I know some people are going to refer to these as classes. That's not accurate. But the covens are Emissara, your diplomats, Huntmaster, Wildland Scouts, Surveyors, and Rangers, Cavaliers, Marcher Knights who ride and protect, Injustic, Cruel Inquisitori, Enforcer of Mandates. Then they are completely unexpected. Netherin, Stern Abysma Guards and Vile Crafters, Soothsay, Farseeker Seers, Dream Trancers and Spies, and Thaumatur, Erudite Sages and Masters of Alchemy. And at third rank, you would pick your Brood. Then we have Origin, picking your origin story, basically the link you had and may again have with mortal life. This could be considered the social caste that you were in before you became a bloodless. So we have Highborn, Anointed, Burger, Freeborn, Stranger, Lowborn, Outcast, Outlaw, Valborn, and Abysmic. And at fourth rank, you would pick your calling. which is why you see that that pairing off thing down, down in the character sheet proper. But then we get to abilities. Abilities, as mentioned before, have a score between 0 to 6. You pick one ability as your Fatal Flaw, which has a fixed 0 score, and cross it out. Then you get...
That makes gameplay much more interesting.
Yep. 2 abilities get three diamonds. 2 more get 2 of them, and then 2 more get 1. And that does mean you have to make some painful decisions because there are 7 abilities total. So one of them is going to have 0, and the others are going to have a setup of priority.
So your bloodline and your coven would probably play in a huge part of this as well, considering, your role within this vampiric society.
Mm-hmm. So next is Virtues and Vials. First, your Crux pair gets 3 diamonds in it. Then you give 3 circled ones, 2 on each. And then the last 3, 1 on each. And that does mean that because of that, there's going to be a good amount of points spread out, but you are going to have to make some choices on what you prioritize.
And it looks like no matter what you do, you're going to have at least one which you're in conflict with, versus you get an even amount of virtues and vials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing about Virtues and Vials is it's a double-edged sword. That's why they're set up in pairs like this, and also why you don't see points for each entry in the pair, because it's meant to be shared.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have Arcanics. You can assign 3 diamonds to your Coven or Bloodline Arcanics, or in Vile Vein or Half Dead. Put all 3 diamonds in one, or split them up between 2 to 3 of them. And again, Arcanics is something we'll get to later in this series. But after that, we have Skills. So you assign diamonds to your individual skills, but you pick 3 skills as failings first, with a fixed 0 score, and cross them out. 3 skills get 3 points, 6 skills get 2 points, and 9 skills get 1.
So unlike 5e, you're not going to be good at everything.
Mm-hmm. Then you pick out your gear, which is picking out an arms kit, pack, and pouch. We'll get to those sooner. Writing down the weapon and armor stats you get out of that. Then roll 3d6 for gold and determine your hit points, which is strength plus vigor plus 3. And after that, you determine your blazons. Your alert is the sum of uncanny and wits. Your poise is the sum of charisma and intellect. And your speed is the sum of dexterity and vigor.
And it has a minimum score of 3 on each.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to have any zeros.
No. And since these are static defenses, having zeros on it wouldn't make much sense. But then we have Bloodlines and Covens, as mentioned before. And it kind of goes into a bit more detail on each. And a lot of these will be expanded further on in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But does Bloodlines define a vampire's lineage and parentage? Though allies in the Firehold, they have rivalries ancient and deep. Sabotage, betrayal, and power struggles play out like feuding noble houses in a realm of shadow. Covens, on the other hand, describe your mission within the Order and Firehold duties. They manage conflicts and provide structure, unity, and expertise within the Order. In contrast
Your
to the
place in the world.
Yep, in contrast to the ever-bickering Bloodlines. And The funny thing is that while some of these you could see as similar to certain D&D classes, there are others that a lot of them a lot of the standard classes aren't really covered here. All of the casting classes aren't covered here because with how this game is set up, it'd be kind of pointless. And there isn't really an equivalent to the fighter in the traditional sense. I know some might say the Cavalier, but that's more akin to the Cavalier back in the old days, or the Lancer in Pathfinder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are.
I was gonna say knight,
Yeah.
because I know there was a knight in like AD&D.
Mm-hmm. But they are the born in the saddle Lancer type of archetype.
Mm-hmm.
Also, because of the way the Injustic are described, I figure it's only a matter of time before someone does a setting equivalent version of Dread.
Mm.
Personally, if I want to go setting equivalent, instead of going with Dread, I'd go with Solomon Kane.
Oh, that would be badass.
Oh. But obviously after that you pick your origin. And the origin backgrounds we've already more or less covered. And your choice of origin can grant certain arcanics, which we will get to when we get to arcanics proper. But after that we get into traits. And while the abilities are pretty self-explanatory, the only one that is going to be a little bit less so is Uncanny, which is essentially the weird abilities. But when it comes to virtues and vials, they are describing your passions, your tempers, your drives, your ideals. 1 is low passion, 6 is an intense, overwhelming zeal. If it's not circled, you don't have it at all. So in other words, you need at least one of them circled in order to have points in a virtue or vial. And you can kind of see what I meant earlier when I said that these are a double-edged sword. But after that we have the skills, which are self-explanatory, I'd say. I can't think of any that I need to go further into.
I do like the inabilities for strength. It's break, crush, grapple, body power, raw force. You didn't put rip and tear in there, and that makes me sad.
But then we have Arcanics, which I will note the concept of Dwemer that's mentioned here is something that's going to be shared throughout the Lost Lorn games. But Arcanics are kind of the vampiric abilities / magic. And the word in blue is the Dwemer that's required. A bit of uncanny that must be present for you to use the Arcanics. And the words in blue are the skills that you use when using it. There isn't really a casting skill in the sense of some games.
And again, kind of going back to what I was saying before about you'd have to build your characters a certain way to get the most out of each of these Arcanics.
But as kind of hinted at, there's a list of Arcanics for Bloodlines and one for Covens. For the bloodlines, we have what the Basbazook get, where they can control Nameless as well as mess with them. The Kazdar, who use a Natura. They have potence and resistance to injury, can stand up to attacks that would devastate others. The Marquesi can dominate the mind. Again, going back to Clan Ventru. The Sturmir can move quickly and do more in a turn. The Profugos can mold shadows. The Voldin can perform in order to provoke, inspire, and control an audience. In that regard, I'd say the Voldin are akin to Clan Bruja. Because emotional fuckery is kind of what they did.
With the Profugos, I get this image of the main character in the darkness.
I could see it. With Zaluria, it is having power over passions of a crowd, twisting and turning heads in ways that make them love you. Okay, I take it back. The Zaluria are the ones who are more like Clan Bruja.
I was gonna say more Toreador.
But on the Coven Arcanic, we have Injustic, who can manipulate and control the perception of hunger and the power of the inner fiend. That would be terrifying Inquisitor. They would be terrifying interrogators against other vampires. Then.
Oh yes.
Huntmaster, whispering to, controlling, and taming various kinds of monstrin, including making one your familiar. Clan Gangrel, anyone? Thaumatur, creating Ecor and other alchemical potions using blood so that it preserves, protects, and grants powers. Thaumaturs are also the ones who make the Ecor that can be used as a blood substitute, as we mentioned before. Cavalier, increase the damage of their attacks and of others on a steed or on foot. Eventually take away
paladins in a way.
Yeah, eventually take away foes' damage. Netherin, able to survive the Abysma and control situations there, and being hard to predict or control. Malkavian, is that you? Soothsay, the power of insight and far-seeing, getting information from long distances and the future. And
I would say that's also kind of Malkavian.
And
knowing things you shouldn't.
Yeah. And Emissara, the ability to boost your own allies' poise, or give you and your allies other sight or better senses, or find someone. And it should be noted with each of the Arcanics, they have 2 associated skills. For example, Emissara has etiquette and streetwise associated with it, whereas the Marquesi has command and negotiate. But then there are 2 other Arcanics, Vilevane and Half-Dead. Vilevane is described as the lore of the Fang, the wonder of the most ancient art. You can do any of the following as an action while going into hunger and touching the target. And it basically allows you to go into hunger and give bonuses when you do. Versus Half-Dead, may your past always be remembered. Roll any virtue or vile plus an ability versus the target's, who is also one of your own origin faction, to do one of the following. At 1 diamond, they'll immediately do as you ask, as long as it aligned with a shared origin faction's interest. Or you can give a boon to a roll. Basically, it's a way to command people from your origin.
Sounds like one is more giving into the monster, and the other is, kind of trying to retain your humanity in a manner of speaking.
Uh, then we have the whole thing of packs and pouches. You pick one pack kit and one pouch kit, and this determines what equipment you're getting out of them. All packs have a leather satchel, 3 vials of Ecor which expire in a week, a personal knife, a bedroll, and 3 flasks of Kraken oil. Whereas pouches have a coin purse with 7 GP, a silver cup, flint and tinder, an oak silk handkerchief, a personal seal and wax, and a comb. And depending on your I was gonna say depending on your choices early on that's determine what you're gonna get, but there's nothing in here that says that it has to be the matching one.
Mm-hmm.
So you could mix and match if you so chose.
Or according to the game master's, rules.
Mm-hmm. But then we have arms kit. Instead of just saying, okay, here's a few dozen GP, pick your equipment. No, instead we have these kits, which you pick one arms kit and write it on the sheet. You can change out your choice for free anytime you're in the firehold. Write down at least one weapon, but be sure to record your armor. When you roll the highest number of the damage dice, it always succeeds in breaking through armor. Damage is indicated in red, i.e. 3d6. So, with each of the arms kits, you have 3 potential weapons and 1 armor. Like for example, the gunner arms kit has 2 pistols. It's a wits plus firearms roll to use it. Takes 1 turn to reload. Requires wits at 1. But it does 4d10 in damage.
That is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And you get 2 of them. You could also do a musket, which does 4d12 in damage. Uses wits plus firearms. Takes 1 turn to reload. So I'd say this is where the more brutal side of combat comes in the fact that weapons do a lot more damage.
Mm-hmm.
Like look at a rapier compared to a rapier in any even in the more classic entries. It is doing 3d8 damage. Now, some of this is mitigated by the different way that this game handles damage compared to the more standard fares. But that's 3d8.
So in some cases, armor won't even matter.
Now, just to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass, let me open this up in a different tab, because I want to make sure that I have it set up proper as far as how damage is going to work. Okay. So you do 1 damage each time a damage dice rolls over the armor number of the target. So, taking that into account, let's look at hard leather armor. That's a 3. So if you get successfully hit with a rapier and you've got hard leather armor, when they roll those 3d8, any die that go over 3 is treated as you taking 1 HP of damage.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, you're not starting with a whole lot of HP in this game.
Nope.
Now, let's go back to that musket and take that into account.
4 fucking D12.
And the highest of the armors that we see in this, I would say, is things like the Knight Arms kit or the Shield Arms kit, which have... The Knight Arms kit has breastplate armor. You need strength 2 or higher to use it, and has an armor rating of 5. even with that, it's very likely you're going to be taking hits.
You're going to be taking some damage, especially considering the highest damage they can be rolled is a 48.
Yeah. Now, you're not adding the die together. It's more of, it has to go. Each individual die would have to go over that. But as has been noted, when you roll the highest number, it always succeeds in going through armor.
Mm-hmm.
Which would mean that, say, if you roll 4s when you're throwing the sling against somebody who has an armor rating of 5, if you get at least 1 4, then that always hits.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have the blazons, as mentioned before: alert, poise, and speed. Alert is essentially your passive perception, in a sense. If you have an alert of 6 or higher, you have other sight and can see in the dark. Alert is often used to roll initiative. And alert plus 10 is the difficulty when a foe tries to sneak past you. Poise is your self-confidence, basically your social defense. And is used to roll initiative in social seats. And speed is used to roll initiative in active scenes. Sorry, in action scenes. Basically how fast you are. It also determines your move score and how many moves you can take in a turn. Speed plus 10 is the difficulty when someone's trying to catch you. And of course, your speed gives you a certain number of move points, which determines how many actual moves you have in a turn, such as moving from a zone to the next, making your action roll, which counts 1 move point, or performing unique maneuvers. So we are operating on an AP system.
Yep.
Which is good. I like AP systems.
Yeah.
I didn't use it for my...
Shadowrun Returns, in a way.
But then we have rank advancement when it comes to vampire ranks, as mentioned before. When you're a FangKnight, you're a novice through an adept. When you're a Fang Lord, you're a master/mentor. If you go up a rank away from the Firehold, it's a field promotion. And the number of XP to go up a rank is between 1 to 30, determined by the tail spinner. To go up in rank as a Fang Lord, you need to drink dry the blood of a vampire, often a hunted down Shadowvane or Unshackled, but can also be that of a criminal hostage or a failed Firehold Fang. And
kind of like Bullywug Society. Yep. Want to advance in rank, you gotta kill your own masters, or sometimes do other things.
At each rank, you get to add points to your traits. 1 Arcanics, 1 Ability, 1 Virtue Vial, 4 Skills, and +1 HP. Now, your Fatal Flaw and your Failings are always locked. You cannot raise them.
Yep.
And after that, we have a rank chart. And I do like the titles that we have here for each of them. So we at first rank, which is what you'd be at character creation, you're a Spawn Knight, a newly blooded initiate, oathbound and in training, but without memory or valor. And you see that it goes up further. Each one giving its own benefits.
And looks like they have a max rank in what you can get in all your abilities and skills.
So you're not getting it up to 6 until Lord rank 5. Essentially when you're a Blood Baron. And of course, after that, we have the benefits. The max trait is self-explanatory, and it applies to any ability, skill, virtue, vile, or arcanics. Background, a specific background for you and the talent that goes with it. A brood, which is a sub-faction of your bloodline. It must be one of the two of your own bloodlines. You can now add points to that arcanics. A calling, a specific calling or sub-faction of your coven, and or you can take the exchange challenge to choose any other coven. You can gain a new talent. You can take a passion. As mentioned here, passions fuel roleplay, and when a character expresses their passions profoundly or beautifully in a scene, they get a drama coin. We will get to what drama coins are later. At some point you can get a shield knave, so you get a permanently assigned knave. You can take a tenet, which is something usable once per scene to gain a boon. Should you roleplay how the tenet or oath spurs a drive or incites a new goal. And the tenets are all associated with the core abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Blood Passage, where you have unquestioned authority when on watch. You can take a quest, which can give you a blood gift of +1 diamond to an arcanics. You can get a similar thing from Votive Vows. And Open Arcanics, this is basically an arcanics from any faction, even if you don't belong to it. Getting the Royal Honor means you're presented with the Sovereign Crown, made member of the Royal Knights, and given the title of Count. And Faction Magistar. You're an elder in your bloodline or coven in your domain, and sit on the Amarantha High Council for your faction.
This sounds eerily similar to a thing I'm doing in my Castles game with a society of vampires on the Sword Coast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But after that, they do go into the idea of the backgrounds. And at second rank, you can pick any background from this or the next page and take its talent. And each one has two talents you can pick. So so you can double down if you so wish to. And of course, there are the core talents, which this is why I said that they're more akin to knacks, even though some of them, I guess you could say, are analogous to feats.
Mm-hmm.
But the only requisite is usually pretty straightforward. And you have some that are core, and the rest of them are tied to particular skill categories. You know, mayhem, physical, mental, social, and arcana. And let me double check something. I want to see if we end up. Now we may as well cover Firehold in this section. So the Firehold is essentially your base. It says there is more to existence than duty, service, and expeditions. Even a FangKnight needs a place to rest, resupply, and regroup. But for them, home is not an escape from stress and chaos. It's a bulwark against despair and death. A stronghold where the world cannot reach them. A Firehold is more than just shelter from the sun. It's a sanctuary from a world that would see them destroyed. A safehold built over an active hellhole.
Yeah, just casually build your home over a freaking maw of hell, because that makes things better.
Yep. There's kind of an implication that the reason they do this is as part of a deal that they make with the human nobility, i.e., we will leave you alone as long as you keep those hellholes shut.
Okay. Give us some blood in exchange.
That's more or less the thing, and of course the whole thing of human nobles sending their kids as political hostages is a well-worn tradition. But then we get a bit in the Firehold sheet, which you can see how it's set up here, and it does have a similar parallel to attributes, just with a different set: security, martial, influence, prestige, wealth, alliances, and resources. And I do like the other things that are put in to make it clear that that it's more than just a base. Because you do have contacts who are self-explanatory, knaves who are sworn to that Firehold. And when it comes to creating a hold, you roll or pick a legend to describe the history, situation, and site. Then you pick the Aeon, which is how old and well established it is. Then you spend points that you get from your Aeon on the attributes. Then pick your Firehold alignment. And this is, unlike character creation, Fireholds are meant to be a bit more collaborative. But you have a few random legends you can go with. And when it comes to Eons, it's basically the era in a Firehold's life cycle. And kind of goes, and I guess you could consider it an archetype of it. So Morntide, it's a fairly new Firehold. A Noonday one is one that's at the prime of its youth. An Eventide one is one that's renowned, steeped in history, wealth, and influence, but it's starting to get some degree of decadence. And Dead Knights are the ones that are far more decayed.
If it's not abandoned, then it's probably going to be.
I mean, it's rich in resources and lost lore, but has endured a lot of shit. And then we have the Firehold's alignment, which I could see some people looking at this and saying it's akin to the 9 alignment grid in the world's most litigious role-playing game, but I don't see it. Especially since this is the alignment of the Firehold, not for characters.
Yeah.
And because there's also the fact that it's not relying on the same good and evil kind of thing, since that wouldn't fit for this game. And instead we have the Loyalist versus Rebel and Virtue versus Vile. Which, if I'm being honest, I find more interesting than the good, evil, law, chaos thing. It also means you avoid all of the problems that I have with the alignment system.
I mean, it's really more what the Firehold believes and holds dear, but not everyone in there is going to hold to those same values, which is something that even I find interesting about this.
Yep. And then we have the attributes, and depending on how many what your Aeon, that determines how many points you've got to spend on this sort of thing. So if it's Morntide, you've got 11 points. Noonday, 17. Eventide 23, and Dead Knight 19. And I already mentioned each, and I think it's self-explanatory in what they are.
Security are for the defenses. The marshal are the people who basically rise to fight.
Mm-hmm.
The influence in the land. Basically the reputation.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of gold, what they can get. Who their allies are, and again, who they are, what they can get.
Yeah.
And what they already have.
And I do like that we have a nice little sentence description for each tier. So, for example, a Martial 6, elite superbly trained knaves, all armed with Relica weaponry and armor, 300 knaves. That may not sound like much, but that's the equivalent of a highly trained honor guard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. And of course, it also goes into the Ignis Numen, which is the living spirit of the Firehold. And the prestige determines how powerful and how trustworthy it is. For each level of prestige, it has 3 points of Arcanics. Then we have the Fire Folk, who are basically the people that are the, I won't say common folk, but these are the people who are the support staff of the Firehold. Mm-hmm. For every Fang, there are roughly 20 Firefolk. They are housed, fed, and healed by the Firehold's meager resources.
Yep.
And the 7 kinds of Firefolk are Knaves, who are the fighters, Scuts, who are menial servants, Blood Mules, who are criminals that are meant to be bled.
Their food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Crafters, self-explanatory. Scholars, also self-explanatory. Thralls are serfs from villages that are vassal to the Firehold barony, who may not live in the Firehold but are pressed into service. And Nameless are the laboring dead.
There's no I in Evil Corp.
Mm-hmm. And we do have a bit of a thing for creating the Knaves, which works similarly to creating a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
But it is somewhat simplified. For example, the for Origin, you just have the Throngs, which do give their own benefits. Blazons are determined by a roll of 2d6. A knave's armor is determined by the Firehold's resources. So resources +1 is their defense rating. The martial score determines their damage, going from 1d4 at 0 to 2d10 at 6.
Rhyminy.
Knaves always have 5 hit points, and a set of merits that they can use at any time. And they do have their own rank system.
So you can have one that's like a low-ranking knave that is like incredibly badass.
Mm-hmm. Instead of having to track XP for them at the end of each session that a knave took part in, you roll a d10. If the roll is higher than their current rank, they go up a rank. And it goes from page, a new recruit, to knave captain. And at 4th rank, you choose a vanguard, which I'd say is their equivalent to a subclass.
Mm-hmm.
And the following pages go into each of the clans and the like, and a bit more in detail, as well as their edge and their urge. Basically a major advantage and disadvantage, as well as their arcanics. Along with things like the Mythox, their particular broods, which is a potential subclass. Like, for example, the Bass Bazook, you have Blight Eater and Skeleton, each of which has their own arcanics that they can utilize. And you see it with the remaining ones. So there's a degree of customization, but it's not it isn't a case of going through a long list of things.
And it urges you to specialize versus going, like you said, going down a long list of mechanics and just picking one after one, because you're not going to be good at everything, as I said before.
That being said, because of the way Arcanics ends up working, this ends up highlighting why I don't quite agree with the insistence on a one-page sheet, because I think people would want to reference what they can get at the different levels of Arcanics. Because for some of them, it's a bit more narrative than others. And I'm a big proponent of play from the sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And considering the amount, like, at starting out, it's not going to be as much of a problem, but after a few sessions, or by the time you get to being a Fang Lord, it might be an issue. And even then, just some kind of quick reference for the different Arcanics would be very helpful. But of course, we have a similar thing with Emissara. In their case, callings. For example, with the Emissara callings, we have the Nuncios and Spy Masters, which grant their own arcanics, as can be seen. One thing that I did notice throughout this is that there isn't really an even with the stuff that you're getting from those elements. It's mostly more options for arcanics, not necessarily more talents or the like.
Just changing the way that it functions.
Mm-hmm. And some of that is not too far removed from how I handle things, but it's something I find interesting. It also highlights that bit of reference I think is going to be important. Hell, if you can get away with it, I'd say put each of the arcanics on like a index card. I realize that might be a bit of an ask, but I think it would go a long way to giving a bit of reference for when people are doing lengthier campaigns.
I mean, this is a play test too, so there's still potential to, change things up.
Oh yeah. So because of the fact we end up skimming a lot more than I had initially planned, with going over bloodlines and covens and their subtypes, that does mean I'm gonna have to do some adjustments to the schedule. But next week we will be delving straight into things like Crux Dice, Dwemer, combat, and just going a bit more in detail on the Tailspinner system. So keep an eye out for that. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
我所